you have about, roughly, and I'm talking always in rough terms, you have about a third and a third and a third between oil, coal, and gas. That will continue to be the case. Oil as a percentage will drop to about 28%. Gas will go up to about 25%. Coal will go down to 28%. Why does gas go up? It is cleaner. It is desired all over the world. It is desired even in our region. But as I said, these make up about 75-80% of energy. They will make up about 75-80% of the energy even in 25 years time. Where does OPEC fit in? OPEC, as if some of you do not know, is a group of countries that export oil. OPEC stands for Organization of Petroleum Exporting Countries, and it was an organization that was established in 1961. Kuwait, by the way, was one of the founding members, and it now supplies about 30 million. So out of the 90 million barrels a day, 30 million come from OPEC. That will increase in 25 years' time to about 40 million. So it will also remain an important organization. Particularly that in these countries, it's unlike, for instance, the United States or to a large extent Russia. These countries produce and export a lot of oil. Many other countries produce a lot of oil, like also the United Kingdom, but they utilize or use most of it. Is there enough oil to handle that demand in the future? The answer is yes. There's about 1,400 billion barrels of oil all over the world. That is recoverable oil, as they call it in the industry. So that should be enough for about 42, 43, 45 years time. But at the same time, if any of you are familiar with the oil industry, with the improvement in technology, more and more reserves are found, and more reserves are recoverable, because the advance in technology in this industry has been tremendous. I have seen that in my lifetime, and I'm sure it will continue. One more point before we go particularly about Kuwait. When we talk about the oil industry, we generally talk about two sections. One section we call the upstream. The upstream is the part where you prospect for oil and you produce it as a raw material. The second part is what we call the downstream. The downstream is after you have taken it as a raw material, what do you do with it? You refine it, you transport it, you market it, you use it in its final usage, or you use it in the petrochemical industry to produce a whole lot of things that we can talk about a little bit later. In the 50s, in the 40s, the 50s, and parts of the 60s, the oil was dominated by 7 major oil companies. That has changed now, but these 7 companies, which were called the 7 Sisters, 5 of them were American, 2 of them were English, or not to disappoint some of my friends here, the shell is actually Anglo-Dutch. So these were the companies that dominated the oil scene. These were the companies that made, more or less, made all of the deals. These were the companies that found the oil, made agreements with countries, marketed the oil, and actually they had hundreds of thousands of employees. In Kuwait, in the 30s, 2 of these companies, BP and Gulf being American, BP being English, and as you probably know, Kuwait was an English protectorate, but the United States, to be frank, did not want the United Kingdom or Great Britain to be the sole operator in here, because they saw that there are good prospects in Kuwait. So they formed a joint venture which became known as Kuwait Oil Company, and they made a deal with Kuwait in the standard format at the time, which was called a concession agreement, where they would produce the oil, they market it, and they would give a fee to Kuwait. That was in 1936, where the first oil well was drilled and oil was found in Kuwait. A little bit later, World War II came, so everything stopped. And in 1946, the first shipment of oil was made from Kuwait, because there was no activity during World War II. And then, as oil flew from Kuwait reserves, from Kuwait fields, the country was transformed. It was transformed in a huge way. Since he said when I graduated, so you can guess my age. In the 50s, I was a child, and I saw how the country has changed tremendously. I mean, you could not even believe it. This here was basically a small community, fairly poor. There were some, of course, as I said, merchant families, some rich people, but the means were extremely limited. And I must say, there were very well-run ways in which the income was distributed and was spent to benefit the country. There was a big transformation in the education field, in the health services, in the infrastructure, on the roads, in the buildings, and in educating Kuwaitis abroad. And as a matter of fact, me and many other people, of course, were the beneficiaries of those policies. In the 60s, the early 60s, as the country began to change, and as the country began to produce more oil and become more wealthy, the government, along with the private sector, formed many companies to work in the downstream side of the business. KNPC, Kuwait National Petroleum Company, was formed to refine the oil and to service the local market. KOTC, a transportation company, was also formed to buy tankers, oil tankers, product tankers, and ship the oil products and the oil all around the world. PIC, Petrochemical Industries Company, was also formed. These were formed, some of them in joint ventures with the major oil companies, some of them between the government and the private sector. This was really in line with what many other countries do. Then came the 1970s, and again, in line with what has happened all over the world in the countries that produce oil, the government took over the oil industry in Kuwait. These companies then were taken over by Kuwait, and in 1980, a very important step was taken, where the government formed what is called Kuwait Petroleum Corporation, which is the national oil company. It became the umbrella organization or corporation that owned all of these companies. So now you have a structure where you have a big corporation, Kuwait Petroleum Corporation. It oversees all of the oil industry in Kuwait, but it owns the companies that do the different activity. It owns KOC, which produces the oil. It owns KNPC, which refines the oil. It owns KOTC, which